All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into what I like to call an elite masterclass on the hidden, interconnected biological costs of one of our most common modern habits. We're going to literally look under the hood of human physiology to figure out exactly how alcohol interacts with our cellular machinery, our brain structure, our microbiome, and our sleep architecture. Now look, this is absolutely not about judgment. This is an ultra-deep, evidence-based exploration into how our daily choices ripple through literally every system in our body, ultimately dictating our health span and our cognitive longevity. Let's get into it. It's kind of this fascinating modern contradiction, right? Think about it. As a society, we invest so heavily in our cognitive performance, our mental health, and our longevity. We're out here optimizing our diets, meticulously tracking our sleep, and hunting for the latest biohacks to maximize our daily energy and deep work capacity. But then, at the exact same time, we frequently consume a socially accepted toxin that actively unravels those very efforts at a molecular level. So how does this single daily habit actually reshape our biological age? Well, to understand the whole shebang, we have to look past the surface and examine the actual root causes of systemic aging.
For decades, we've all been sold this myth of the healthy glass of wine for heart health. You know the one. But massive new biobank datasets and Mendelian randomization studies have completely flipped the script. It's a massive paradigm shift. Dr. Henry Kranzler from the Penn Center for Studies of Addiction hit the nail on the head when he pointed out that these new findings sharply contrast with the old governmental guidelines on safe drinking limits. The scientific consensus has officially moved from a model of moderate benefits to one of direct, dose-dependent harm.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The cellular clock, 2. Brain volume and deep work, 3. The hidden gut-bone axis, 4. Sleep architecture, and finally, 5. The future of harm reduction.
All right, Section 1. The cellular clock.
To really grasp biological aging, we first have to understand telomeres. These are the protective DNA sequences located at the very ends of our chromosomes. It's exactly like the little plastic tips on your shoelaces that stop them from fraying. Every single time a cell divides, these telomeres get slightly shorter, so their shortening basically acts as a cellular biological clock. Now here's where it gets interesting. When ethanol enters the body, your liver metabolizes it into a highly toxic byproduct called acetaldehyde. This creates a massive spike in reactive oxygen species, driving chronic oxidative stress and inflammation throughout the body. And because telomeres are incredibly sensitive to this oxidative damage, this whole process drastically accelerates their decay. You're basically fraying the shoelace. A landmark clinical study by Pavanello and colleagues actually compared the telomere length in the blood cells of social drinkers to those diagnosed with alcohol abuse, and the numbers here are honestly wild. The relative telomere length, the T/S ratio, was 0.87 in social drinkers, but it dropped to nearly half that, 0.42 in heavy consumers, cut almost in half. In fact, large-scale genetic studies back this up, showing that individuals genetically predisposed to higher alcohol consumption, specifically carriers of the ADH1B genotype, show robustly shorter telomeres. We are literally talking about an entirely accelerated biological aging process happening deep within your DNA. This timeline breaks down exactly how this physiological senescence plays out. Within minutes of having a drink, your body is working hard to process it. Within hours, that toxic acetaldehyde and those reactive oxygen species are accumulating and depleting your natural antioxidants. Over weeks of chronic exposure, we start seeing a decline in crucial longevity proteins, things like SIRT1 and AMPK, which actually stops your cells from being able to clear out damaged mitochondria. And over years, all this unresolved cellular stress translates directly into that accelerated telomere attrition we just talked about. The biological cost just keeps compounding. Moving on to Section 2, brain volume and deep work. 10 years. I really want this staggering prediction to sink in for a second. A landmark study published in Nature Communications analyzed brain scans from over 36,000 healthy adults in the UK Biobank. What they found was that increasing your alcohol consumption from 0 to just 4 units a day, which by the way is only about 2 standard drinks, is predicted to physically age the brain by a full decade compared to a non-drinker. Just think about that. 10 years of brain aging wiped away. And the really scary part? The damage is non-linear. It compounds the more you drink. Going from 1 to 2 units a day decreases your global gray matter by about 2 years worth of aging. But if you jump from 2 to 3 units a day, that loss practically doubles. We are talking about actual physical shrinkage in the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus. When you lose that gray matter, the neurons themselves, and the white matter, which is the wiring between them, You're directly destroying your capacity for deep work, your intense focus, your memory formation, and your overall cognitive endurance. It's a real game changer for productivity. But why exactly is the brain shrinking? Well, a huge culprit lies in how alcohol sabotages our nighttime recovery. Let's talk about glymphatic clearance. Think of this as the brain's nighttime dishwasher. It's a waste removal system that's primarily active during deep sleep, using fluid to quite literally wash away toxic metabolic byproducts. Alcohol severely messes this system up. It compromises these little water channels in our brain cells called aquaporin 4 channels. When those channels fail, the washing cycle stops. So instead of flushing out the trash overnight, you're effectively trapping biological waste and neurotoxins inside your brain tissue. And when those neurotoxins get trapped, the consequences are incredibly severe. It actively accelerates core Alzheimer's disease pathways. Ethanol messes with the electrical balance in your hippocampus. Because the brain's dishwasher is broken, amyloid beta plaques start to build up. On top of that, that toxic metabolite, acetaldehyde, forces your brain cells to overproduce a molecule called base 1AS, which creates even more toxic plaque. And finally, it promotes something called tau hyperphosphorylation, which I know is a mouthful, but it basically leads to those famous neurofibrillary tangles associated with cognitive decline. It transforms that occasional harmless drink into a major risk factor for long-term neuroinflammation. Section 3. The hidden gut-bone axis. Okay, this is where things get genuinely bizarre. Let's trace this crazy domino effect step by step. Step 1. Alcohol completely disrupts your gut microbiome, wiping out good bacteria. Step 2. This gut chaos causes a massive spike in a pro-inflammatory molecule called PGD2. Step 3. All that PGD2 triggers your immune system to overreact, specifically expanding these pro-inflammatory Th7 cells. Step 4. Here's the crazy part. Those immune cells release signals that activate osteoclasts. And what do osteoclasts do? They literally dissolve and break down your bone tissue. So an imbalance in your stomach bugs is directly driving the accelerated breakdown of your skeleton. Mind-blowing, right? But wait, it actually gets worse for your bones. Alcohol is also a direct toxin to osteoblasts, the cells that are supposed to build new bone. Plus, let's be real, empty alcohol calories usually replace actual nutritious food, meaning your gut can't absorb calcium properly. When your blood calcium drops, your parathyroid glands panic and release hormones telling your body to break down even more bone to get that calcium back. Toss in the fact that heavy drinking suppresses testosterone in men and depletes estrogen in women, which are critical hormones for bone strength, and you have the absolute perfect storm for alcoholic osteoporosis and stress fractures. All right, Section 4, Sleep Architecture. You've probably heard of Dr. Matt Walker's incredible research on this. Alcohol is a shockingly powerful REM sleep suppressor. A healthy night of sleep involves these deep, beautiful REM cycles that are absolutely crucial for locking in memories and processing our emotions. But the second you introduce ethanol, you get totally fragmented sleep. Look, alcohol might knock you out, but sedation is not sleep. As your liver works overtime to metabolize the booze, it creates a rebound effect. It constantly wakes you up in the second half of the night, completely short-circuiting those REM cycles. The result? You wake up physically unrecovered, emotionally brittle, and cognitively compromised for any deep work you need to do that day. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, the future of harm reduction. First things first, we absolutely have to update our mental models. The old paradigm told us that moderate drinking, like that daily glass of wine, was somehow heart healthy. But the new paradigm, which is driven by massive, undeniable genomic and biobank data, proves that ethanol is just a biochemically toxic, dose-dependent neurotoxin. It accelerates cellular aging at literally any dose. All those apparent benefits from historical wine studies, they most likely just reflected the fact that wine drinkers tend to have healthier overall lifestyles, lower stress, and better social lives. It wasn't the ethanol doing the heavy lifting. So any alcohol consumption has to be viewed strictly through the lens of harm reduction, not health enhancement. So if you do choose to drink, how do we mitigate all this systemic damage? Experts recommend some highly specific science-backed strategies. Step 1. Adopt the Mediterranean pattern. If you're going to drink, have measured amounts of wine with your meals to slow down the absorption rate. Step 2. Avoid binge drinking like the plague. Massive spikes in blood alcohol completely overwhelm your cell's antioxidant defenses. Step 3. This is a big one. Maintain at least a solid 3-hour gap between your last drink and going to sleep. This gives your liver the runway it needs to clear out the ethanol and acetaldehyde, which protects your REM sleep and lets your brain's dishwasher do its job. So, we've covered a lot today. The cellular clock, brain atrophy, that wild gut-bone connection, and how sleep architecture gets dismantled. The big takeaway here is that every single system influences every other system. It's all connected. The choices you're making today around micromental health and your daily habits are actively writing the script for your physical resilience and cognitive preservation decades down the line. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Now that you're armed with this interconnected biological knowledge, how are you going to measure and protect your own health span moving forward? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Keep learning, keep optimizing, and I'll catch you in the next one.